quote-unquote hits like Sharknado, platforms like Netflix and the Sci-Fi Channel are full of so-called bad movies that are specifically designed to be garbage. Gone are cult classics with a feel of Tommy Wiseau's The Room, a genuine attempt that became a fascinating and compelling wreck, a cult classic in the making. Sony's Venom is like a high-budget return to The Room, and it is objectively terrible. I loved it. The movie is predictable in that it follows the same plot structure as most movies of its genre, and unpredictable in that you never know what strange, out-of-place moment or line of dialogue will come next. It is funny in its own weird, morbid way, but it is also funny unintentionally from serious moments that come across as absurd. I haven't laughed this hard at any other film this year. It felt like the filmmakers had accidentally created a superhero movie parody. I question perhaps every single major creative decision that lead actor Tom Hardy made as Eddie Brock. Every second he occupies the screen gives off this bizarre aura, in a role that feels like something Nicolas Cage would have taken in the 1990s or 2000s. Much has been said about Hardy's accent of unknown origin, and much of his physical mannerisms are overplayed as well. But I simply had no grasp on Eddie Brock's personality. There's a combination of humor and determination from this maverick reporter that eventually turns into a constant cynicism after his journalistic career is ruined. Even so, Hardy operates at the same, almost bored wavelength throughout this portion of the story, mumbling from scene to scene. By the time we get to Brock's obtainment of the Venom symbiote, Hardy transitions into a one-person comedy routine with his inner voice of Venom. The symbiote is characterized as sadistic and cruel in a way that when it actually does crack a joke, it unexpectedly fits in with the tone of the film. That doesn't mean that there aren't several eye-raising moments where he can't figure out whether it's a joke or not. Take the scene in which Venom explains to Eddie how he is a loser. Venom's motivation is unclear for most of the film before it takes a jarring shift near the end. Despite lacking any sense of consistency or common sense in this combination character arc of Eddie Brock and Venom, the sheer absurdity of their fun and hilarious dynamic, whether it is intentional or not, made the otherwise painful film bearable. The supporting cast was dead weight. Riz Ahmed is an actor that I very much admire, but with the dialogue fed to him as Life Foundation founder Carlton Drake, he is laughably bad. Drake is meant to be an Elon Musk-like character, with large ambitions that may come at the cost of lives of underprivileged people. We are meant to believe that Drake is determined enough to the point of bypassing ethical standards, but he instead comes across as irrational and just plain stupid. The usually amazing Michelle Williams is wasted in the same manner several actresses have been in older superhero films. As Brock's ex-fiancée Anne, Williams is unconvincing as someone actually in love with Hardy's unsettling Eddie Brock, and spends the latter half of the film blindly accepting the madness around her. While she does play a key role in certain sequences, the movie treats her more like a plot point than an actual character. There aren't too many other people to mention besides Jenny Slate as a Life Foundation scientist who recruits Eddie Brock against her own boss, and it is disappointing seeing yet another up-and-coming performer being underused in a big blockbuster that should instead propel her to another level of stardom. In fact, nothing feels right in Venom. The way people talk to each other in this movie does not feel like how actual people talk not only in real life, but even in below-average films. Characters say lines that are complete non-sequiturs and raise confusion, until whatever that line was is lost in the following stream of exposition. The movie had a similar structure to other blockbusters with the necessary setups, scenes of exposition, and the inciting incident, but all of these essential scenes are rushed and feel like someone hitting fast forward on the remote control. It is a mess that is too fascinating to ignore. At worst, blockbuster movies feel like they're written by committee. Venom feels like it was written by a bot that has seen every single superhero movie and produced its own automated screenplay that replaced the word cape with creepy goo with a big tongue. There is no consideration that this robotic screenplay gives to emotion or rationality, with crazy tonal shifts going into the final scene of the movie, which might as well ended with a cartoonish Looney Tunes "That's all, folks." It is a movie that almost feels like it doesn't know how to justify its own existence, so it doesn't even try. we are left wondering what motivations, besides box office returns, the filmmakers had while putting this weird Frankenstein's monster of a film together. It may be terrible, but I cannot stop thinking about it or talking to people about it. It's a strange Rorschach test where people will see something different from it. Venom feels like a Shaggy Dog story, a long-running joke with a bad Eminem song as a punchline. I should also mention that I laughed the hardest at the mid-credits scene, which I predicted the dialogue of verbatim before the scene even started. Venom, as I said before, is a terrible movie. But not only did I love it, I want them to make more. Hello everyone, you should have just listened to me read my Venom review. This is AP Marvel, a show where we are all currently mourning the death of Iron Fist. And I'm your host, Chris Compendio. As usual, I'm joined here by Izzy Sio.
Hi, Chris.
Anthony Paone.
Hey, what's up?
We got a returning guest in Sam Reardon from our Infinity War episode.
Heyo.
And we have a fan of the show on today. I think he won a contest of some sort.
Hey, Chris, first time, long time. Pete from Queens. Really excited to be on the show.
Yeah, let me grab the piece of paper. I think Peter Unrain, I think is her name. Yeah, did I
Close
say that
enough.
correctly?
No,
yeah,
that's
sure.
No one does.
Pete, do you want to tell us about what do you do in life? Tell us about yourself.
I used to be a teacher, and I'm a software developer now. I'm actually looking for work right now.
All right.
But that's what I mainly do. And I also play Fortnite with Chris sometimes.
Yeah, and you're here because we saw Venom together, you and me.
We did, yeah.
Yeah, and then you essentially whispered in my ear, put me in the episode.
That's what I did, but
yeah.
also over Messenger.
Yeah.
Slide the DMs.
Yeah, pretty much.
I slid into Chris's DMs so hard.
Yeah, so...
It's like, Chris, please.
Well, I knew I was going to disagree very strongly with Tony, and sometimes it's frustrating listening to an episode and just wanting to, shout out what I'm thinking.
Yeah, exactly. You wanted to just jump into
well,
the...
Peter. I think we're going to do just fine.
Yeah. I'm feeling this. This is good.
Yeah.
Anyway, so now that we're all gathered here, the first time we've had a 5-person episode... let's just talk about our general thoughts on the episode.
This movie was.
Oh, God.
I really feel like San Francisco is really more of a character in the movie.
We were just screaming and just laughter the whole entire time. We were such
Carnage showing up at the
we
very
were
end.
trying to keep it down.
Brilliant.
There were people around and they were so funny.
All right. Let's do this in the most civilized way possible. Yes, we all know it was a chaotic movie, but oh boy, this episode is really something. Let's start with Anthony. Just I think we can just ride off of your enthusiasm and energy after you just tell us your general thoughts. Not the full review, just in general what you thought about the movie.
I came in 2 minutes late to the movie, and I was just like, all right. Let's see how this goes. And I thought the movie was kind of a clusterfuck of what did I just watch?
Right.
It's the room of superhero movies, and that's my general thought.
Yeah, and I kindly stole that sentiment for you for my review, so thank you for that.
Yes, good.
Izzy, you just saw it. We're recording this on Tuesday. You just saw it yesterday, right?
Yes, I did. So I have 4.5 hours between my classes on Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays. Mm-hmm. So I took Erin, my co-teacher.
Yeah.
And we went
to
see Venom.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was an experience. She called it unique, which I agree with. I also went in knowing it was I also went in with Anthony's sentiment is the room of superhero movies, and I think it's fairly accurate. It was a bit all over the place, but it was a bit all over the place. But I think there were a few. There were not a lot, but there were some strong moments. And yeah, that's the general thoughts.
Okay, so it was all right. It was not great, but there were some good parts.
Yeah, it was definitely experience. Like, I definitely share the sentiment of, like, Anthony's, like, the room of superhero movies.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I'm just thinking about that one line. I'm a loser.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely talk about that.
Sorry,
yeah.
Oh, final point. I'll
Yeah.
get into this later. You should watch this movie drunk.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
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 God, I gotta do that.
Sam, you saw it. Did you see it drunk?
I did not. So I know
Okay.
Marcel was in town.
Yeah.
I think you know Marcel.
I know Marcel.
I know.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was funny because you were talking about Marcel and you watching it and it auto-credited to Marvel instead of Marcel.
Yep.
So I was like, oh yeah, of course the Marcel cinematic universe. But anyway,
God,
go on, please.
Oh yeah, so he was in town. He was visiting me in Seattle, and we went and saw it together. And we spent the entire movie just giggling and shooting each other looks and just like trying not to be like those guys in the theater, but totally being those guys in the theater and whispering to each other and just.
I was much more loud when I did the giggling.
I know, I know, Anthony. But we had a splendid time. It was a hog wild experience, and very entertaining, and it was a clusterfuck. And I think honestly, it could have been amazing if it hadn't been held back by a lot of really old cliches that had no business being there. That's my overall thoughts.
Sure. And P, that was basically our experience watching the film, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of. I think you hit the nail on the head. Because the main thing was just I feel like Venom himself was all right, but there were so many things that they just threw on there because they thought they needed, and they just weighed the whole thing down. And they also the pacing was way off because they had rushed through all this stuff they didn't really care about, and I don't know.
Oh,
yeah,
a
lot
of stuff.
We're
gonna get into Oh my god.
Yeah, I mean,
well,
I mean, the way we saw it was I think you were just asking me, we were getting dinner together. So I was in town for New York Comic Con, and you were like, "Oh, when's Venom out?" And I was like, "Oh, tomorrow," but technically tonight. And you're like, "Oh, I know where you're going with this."
Yeah.
And then we made the pact. It was like, okay, we're going to go to 3 closest theaters here, and if they're all sold out, we are just going to call it a night. But the first one we went to had showings available, so our inebriated asses, we got a free little Venom prequel comic, which I have since lost.
It has. I still have it. Actually, we can flip through it later.
You need to keep that Pete, for posterity.
I'm gonna frame it and I'll send it to you.
Yeah, please.
But I thought we were gonna be those guys in the theater, kind of giggling and talk. We were also giving each other's looks. I was laughing and you just looked like baffled and confused, but amazed at the same time.
It was the scene where Tom Hardy's fiance gets fired from her job and walks out and just on the street hands him her engagement ring. And I was just what is happening? They just went through so much in 10 minutes.
And then cut to 6 months later.
Oh my god.
First of all, the movie should have started at the 6 months later part. We didn't need any. The first 20 minutes of the movie didn't make any.
I have a point about that 6 months later cut, and it has to do with the fact that Josh Trank directed this movie, and Josh Trank also directed
No. He. It was Ruben. What's his face? It was the guy that did Zombieland.
Oh, I thought Josh Trank did.
Josh Trank almost did. I'm gonna get to that in a second when I talk about the history of Venom.
Okay, because that has to do with because that wild cut also happens in Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, right.
The most recent one, I'm assuming.
Yes,
fantastic
one.
Yeah. So here's the thing. You all remember Topher Grace as Venom in Spider-Man 3?
Oh yes.
Every day.
Yes, every day.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So yeah, that they tried to turn that they kind of Avi Arad, so the Sony executive who's kind of behind all the Spider-Man movies and a lot of terrible 2000s movies. He was really adamant about getting Venom into these movies. So I think Spider-Man 3 was just supposed to be about James Franco's Harry Osborn and the Sandman, and then they're like, oh no, you gotta put Venom in. And then Spider-Man 3 was exactly the movie we remember it to be.
Yeah.
And then they tried to get these two dudes to write a new Venom movie, and these are the guys who ended up writing not only Deadpool, but they wrote Life, which people thought was a Venom movie, because it had like a weird alien, like goo creature. But that never really happened, because then they rebooted the whole Spider-Man series with the Andrew Garfield stuff. That's when they tried to get Josh Trank in, because this was after Chronicle came out, so he was like hot in Hollywood.
Shit. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. This is before he made Fantastic Four.
Can you imagine if like halfway through Life, like Ryan Reynolds just like turned around and said, "We are Venom," and then like everyone in the audience realized that they were watching a comic book movie?
Honestly, I haven't watched Life, but I kind of wish that theory
the movie
was
is
true.
called Life, and the foundation is called the Life Foundation. It would have
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously, that actually could have worked. And people were confused because one of the trailers for Life used just like stock footage of like a crowd looking up to the sky, and that shot was from Spider-Man 3, just to make it even more confusing. And also, it was also a Sony film, so like I don't know what's happening here.
Well, they really missed an opportunity by not tying it into the Cloverfield trilogy.
Yeah.
But it did talk about. I know, like it was set in space, and this was about space. Like there's a spaceship in Venom. I don't know.
Yeah, but yeah, and then Josh Trank's movie obviously never happened, because then they rebooted Spider-Man again with Spider-Man Homecoming. So then Amy Pascal, who was kind of the co-producer of Homecoming, she's from Sony, and Kevin Feige's from Marvel, of course. I don't know why when they made Homecoming, they're like, okay, now that we have this deal with Marvel Studios, now is the time to make our own universe, starting with Venom. And it's like, that's literally like the most counterproductive thing ever. Because then you see like joint interviews with Pascal and Feige, and Amy Pascal's like, oh yeah, like we're gonna start our own universe with Marvel, and it's gonna be tangent to the MCU and Spider-Man Homecoming. And Kevin Feige's like sitting next to her, just looking confused and baffled, and just like looking in the other direction, just like blankly into space, like he's trying to like not be there somehow. And it's just the most bizarre thing ever, because even after seeing the movie, I still have no clue if this is meant to be related to that Homecoming movie.
I don't think it is. My sort of theory here is that it's basically their attempt at Deadpool.
Yeah.
The same way that Deadpool is kind of like X-Men adjacent. This is sort of Spider-Man adjacent. And the whole tone and the humor versus violence thing is, it wants to be Deadpool, but it also like wants to be like the Dark Knight kind of, and also like a sci-fi horror movie.
Very ambitious.
But it didn't commit to any of them.
It also wants to be Bridget Jones' Diary.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Sure.
If what's his face had played Eddie Brock, this would have been an amazing movie.
Who's
Topher Grace?
No. Well, yes, but no. From from Bridget Jones' Diary.
Colin Firth.
Colin
Firth. If Colin Firth had played any character in this movie,
my
it would have been
God.
the best movie ever made. If Colin Firth had played Venom, can you even imagine?
No,
I don't know if I want that.
Imagine like the mask pulls back and it's Hugh Grant, and he's like, "Whoa, this is quite a
No. Hugh Grant is Carnage.
Hugh Grant is Carnage.
Yeah. Colin Firth is, and then Renee Zellweger plays the fiance who becomes She-Venom. Yeah. Venom with
Michelle
boobs.
Williams does kind of look like mid-2000s Renee Zellweger.
Hey,
Yeah,
And then
it
she's
happen.
blonde, yeah.
Yeah.
This really is all connected. Is it Life, Bridget Jones' Diary, Venom? They're all connected.
This is the greatest Venom universe that we could ever create.
Yeah, they accidentally made a cinematic universe.
Oh my god.
A 3-movie cinematic universe.
Yeah. Do you guys have any? Did you see the soundbite of Avi Arad, who is attached to this movie, by the way?
Yeah.
After he was kind of kicked out of Marvel Studios when like Kevin Feige started with Iron Man and Incredible Hulk. Because like he's credited on Iron Man and Incredible Hulk, but like he was quoted, Avi Arad was quoted saying, "The kids love Venom."
Y'all, he saw some horny fan art or something. Didn't
They
understand
do.
What he was saying. He fully
kids
searched
love
like
Venom.
the kids do love Venom, but not
Yeah.
In the way that he thinks.
no.
Yeah.
Some intern probably said like, "Hey, people are already making fan art. Ha ha ha! Look at this."
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "Oh, this seems like normal art that I understand what this is."
Well, it kind of feels like he's just making Venom into his pet the same way. Like, there was this producer named John Peters who kept trying to make a Superman movie that has... He's been trying to do a Star is Born remake for years, and he tried to do a Superman movie for years, and he wanted the Superman movie to have a giant spider, a gay robot, a gay R2-D2 sidekick.
Okay.
And he wanted Nick Cage to play Superman because he looks like he wanted Sean Penn, I think, to like look like a total like a ruthless
that is
killer,
a wildly different.
Okay,
that is,
Chris.
that is night and day, my man.
Nick Cage Superman thing was a different thing.
You can scoff at that, but where is the Superman franchise now?
Yeah. That's true.
God, I can't. I wish that Nick Cage had been Superman ever.
Yeah.
Well, he's gonna be. He's gonna kind of be Spider-Man in that.
Yeah.
that's
Well, no,
true.
he is gonna be
Sorry?
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He's gonna be Noir Spider-Man.
Noir Spider-Man.
Yeah.
In the animated one.
Oh
And
my God.
John
Yeah.
Mulaney is Spider-Ham.
Spider-Ham, yeah. Superhero movies are weird, man.
Yeah.
What is
As they
happening?
should be.
Yeah. Hey Pete, was Venom good?
Yeah. So Venom was a good movie.
Elaborate.
no.
It has an 80% from the audience on Rotten Tomatoes. So if
Yes.
people love it.
Really?
It's a good
Yes.
movie.
The People's Champion. The
Yeah.
People's Movie.
A people's movie.
I think. So this is what like. I think if you put Tom Hardy's Venom and he does this whole sort of lethal protector arc in San Francisco, and then you put him in conflict with Tom Holland's Spider-Man, you'd have an interesting movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you, 'cause I don't know. I feel like if Tom Holland's Spider-Man was like a couple years older, I think it would make sense. But I also don't see like Venom fitting, like the movie Venom fitting in with like a teenager Spider-Man
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
That's a little too
hulking
horny.
adult.
Yeah, it's too
Symbiote's
violent.
in
Like
there
you can't have,
already.
yeah. I guess you can't have Venom eating off someone's head in front of little baby Peter Parker. It'd
Yeah.
just be too. But I watched this when we watched this movie. I had just listened to the romance episode that you guys did, and the romantic subplot in this movie reminds me a lot of what you were talking about with like Series 1, like Marvel movies, where they just kind of
Right.
have this, like like the Hulk has like Betty, and like just these romantic subplots that feel like they just had to be there. Like I think if you cut out the whole, the fake romantic subplot with the ex-fiance
Dan?
and focused on
As opposed to the real romantic
the
subplot
real romantic
with-
subplot with Venom and Eddie Brock
Okay,
and
there
how
it
they're
is, there
falling
it
in love.
is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel like there's a lot of stuff you could have, like Jenny Slate, for example, could have filled a lot of like sort of plot roles.
Yes.
Like she
yes.
could have
okay.
been the one that turned on. Like, first of all, I think she's very funny, so she could have really fed into the humor of the
She
movie.
was wasted in this movie.
She's totally wasted.
I'm-
Yeah.
Sam,
Okay.
did you want to jump off that, Sam?
I absolutely do. So this is one of the things I took notes on. But this is one of the things that drove me crazy about this movie, because there are two female characters, both of whom are positioned as like strong female characters. Like one of them is like, she's like a scientist and she's making the hard choice, and the other one is like, she's a love interest, but like she stands up for herself, and she's a lawyer and she makes tough decisions. But both of them are super weak, and neither of them have character arcs, and neither of them serve any purpose except to serve as motivators for the man.
Yeah.
And it is such a tired old cliche. If the two of them had been combined, if Jenny Slate had just played this science, like if we had taken out the whole X situation, and Eddie Brock, we just start with him being a disgraced journalist because he, like some lawyer blackballed him, or the whole life things could have still happened. That could be his big fall from grace. The Jenny Slate character is wasted.
Yeah.
I mean, in this movie alone, but also in that would be an amazing character to have in future movies, like this sort of like disgraced scientist who, got blackballed by all the institutions
And now she,
is
like,
the
works
only
with
one who
him.
knows anything. Yeah, is the only one who knows anything about Venom and is passionate about, not only this new research opportunity, but the way it could help humanity in the future, because that's why she's involved with the project to begin with. And that's just totally dropped. She's killed out of nowhere for no reason. Why didn't she run away?
Yeah.
She
By
gives
like a
up the
blue blob.
information.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she gives up the information so easily. Wouldn't it have been so much cooler if she had been the one who came to find Eddie, and she was the one who formed a symbiosis with Venom to come find Eddie and that whole thing.
Yeah.
And then the kiss would have been something else, maybe.
Well, yeah, the kiss could have been like Eddie Brock makes out with Venom, and then like
that's what
Venom
it was.
turns
and
then Venom turns into Jenny Slate, and he's like, "Oh, gross! It's Jenny Slate."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he's like, "Oh, sorry, my mistake."
Yeah.
Also, it was hilarious that they were like, "Oh no, Venom's a woman in the scene. It's not weird. It's not weird at all. Look at this huge boobs on this symbiote. Totally normal, guys. Totally normal."
Like her major thing was that
God.
she follows them into that fight, and she turns on the high frequency sound.
Yes, and the whole thing, there's no reason for her to know that. Venom gave up that information and volunteered that he was weak to fire, which had never come up before. The only person who should have known that was a scientist who had worked with them. Why would Venom trust this person he doesn't even know, especially since Dan's there? Even if he likes the girlfriend, why would he trust this random doctor who Eddie doesn't even like or know or trust?
I will say, I really like the idea of the boyfriend who's secure enough to help out the ex-fiance, and like he's not really threatened by Eddie Brock at all. Like,
sure, yeah.
Dan is we stand Dan. That's all I'm saying.
We stand Dan.
I did like Dan. Dan the man.
Yeah, it was like a nice like support.
Man.
It's like
man.
It was nice like it's nice how like they supporting like Eddie, like how like Bobby Cannavale and Judy Greer were supporting like Scott and like Ant-Man. I only know actors' names, but like that was also like an aspect I liked. I think like this does not in any way excuse any of the portrayals of Jenny Slate and Michelle Williams, but like I know Chris also mentioned. Chris, I think you mentioned in your review also that it had like a mid 2000s vibe, Venom, and so I'm not gonna lie, like the characterizations of like Michelle Williams and Jenny Slate felt like that a little bit. And that is, I obviously does not excuse like the poor representation and like poor characterization, but you definitely get that vibe like from like the classic like tried and true like tropes and like portrayals and like storylines throughout, and like the feeling like, oh, like he let him get away, and like at the end he's like, we are Venom, like that's very like that's very classic 2000s. I feel like
a turd in the wind.
God,
that's less classic.
That's a modern quote for this modern era.
That's a cult classic, is what that is.
Yeah.
So Izzy, like, to go back to the question, was the movie good in your eyes?
So the movie was it was interesting because like the movie was fun. I think like so I started doing bullet journals. I started doing a bullet journal, and like I have like a section of like movies I've seen. And I'm trying to rate this movie on a 10-point scale, and like I was like, you know, I had like a lot of fun in this movie. Like my experience with Aaron's like the same as like yours. I like if something like ridiculous would happen, I'd be like, Aaron, what the fuck are we watching? And like she'd laugh. I'm like, and she's like if something stupid happened, and we'd be like, and Aaron would be like, ugh. And I'm like, same man. But like, I think I just like it was definitely interesting. It definitely wasn't good. Like, don't get me wrong, but I think the last like the first 30 minutes were pretty like the first 30 minutes like could have been cut. It's like all the stuff 6 months later, like all the stuff before 6 months later could have been cut. Like that's a very good point. But I think you definitely like get lost in it. Like I watched this movie at like 12 p.m. on a Monday, and I completely forgot I completely forgot that. I thought it was like 7 p.m. on a Saturday night, and I just got kind of lost in the movie a bit. I guess like you can say like Tom Hardy does a good job of like immersing you in with like Venom and whatever the fuck.
I felt really immersed when I had super evil Elon Musk tell me fortune cookie quotes.
Oh yeah.
We're not talking about Riz Ahmed yet. We have to reserve a whole.
We need to work up to that. Yeah. That's gonna take a while.
The small block.
Poor Riz.
I'm not ready.
But yeah, I think like
I'm ready. I don't think you all are.
I think Venom. I think Tom Hardy was a better Venom than whatever the fuck he was trying to do with Eddie Brock.
I'm a reporter.
I'm a reporter. I'm reporting on the news. Protest. Homeless people. Recycling. Dead body found.
The most unrealistic part of this whole thing is Eddie Brock pays
Eddie
someone
Brock?
for a street sheet. Like he pays someone $20 for a street sheet newspaper.
No. But see, man, he's a good person.
It's San
He's
Francisco,
connected
man.
No,
with the
he's just a
homeless
fucking.
population.
I
He's
read
a
a street-
fucking alcoholic.
I read a street
That's what
sheet
it is.
one time when I was in San Francisco, and it, whatever. I wouldn't pay $20 for it. That's all I'm saying.
No, here's the thing. No. But that whole scene is like, the point is that he's not gonna fucking read it. Like,
Yeah.
The whole point is that he just wants to give her money, but doesn't want it to seem like it's just charity.
Yeah.
No, I think
Like he's trying to
I sort of
be
saw. I was like,
a-
I saw him. It seems like he just like stupid. Like he gives her 20. She offered him $5, and he gave her 20. Like that's not like. I sort of excuse it as like, oh, public drunkardliness and whatever. Like that's how I saw it.
Right.
I saw the scene as like
I thought he cared
he's
about
kind
her.
of a
'cause
shithead.
The whole point
Yeah.
is that she's gonna die later, which as soon as he buys that newspaper, because he cares about her, but she's not important
Mhm.
enough to stay alive. So
hmm
that, I mean, I don't know.
Boy, we love how we treat our women in Venom.
Love it. All die except one.
All of the people that Riot took over were women.
Oh wow.
Oh, that's
What?
true. I didn't realize that.
Well, except for
All the
Riz.
people that Riot
Except-
took over
except
were
for,
women.
Except for Riz at the end. That's interesting.
Except for Riz at the
Yeah.
end.
Wow.
Oh. Well,
Oh, also, before you talk about Tom Hardy, I just want to say, so I was looking at this before, like earlier today. I just trying to find out what the fuck was like Tom Hardy's accent. And they say he was going for like an aw shucks accent kind of vibe. And
Mhm.
before it was like,
What?
aw-
Sam, what is that?
That's
What is
exactly
that
what I got
face,
from it. So I think he nailed it. I think he hit it right in the head.
an aw shucks.
Yeah. Because like the whole thing
I
is
took a
Really?
screenshot
the
of
whole
that.
thing is he's
Yeah.
like, what's happening? Like, why am I eating so many tater tots? Like, I don't
Why
understand.
would you do that?
climbed into a lobster tank. Like, yeah, this is fine. It's no big deal. I'm washing my clothes. No big deal.
Oh, I gotta eat food. I don't know
Oh
what's
my
going
God.
on.
Uncanny impression.
I felt so bad for the ex-fiance when that was all going on, because it really did just look like he was like losing his mind.
He was sweating a lot in that movie.
Sweating
He
so
was.
much, just so sweaty.
Look, if Tom Hardy ends up being the Nicolas Cage, I would not be surprised. Of our
No.
generation.
I don't know. He knows what he's doing.
I mean, he has a penchant for like just strange voices. Like his Bane voice is just iconic at this point, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
everyone still does Bane
Yep.
impressions.
I was
and,
born in the dark.
When I was
Did he also voice
also
Venom?
uncanny.
yeah, he
I forgot
did.
to look this up before. Yeah.
We were
See,
we were
that's smacked a little bit of Venom.
we were actually we were talking about this before you signed on. So he recorded
Dang it.
all of the Venom lines in the morning of that the day that they were whatever scene they were doing, and then they had someone cue up the lines in the scene. So he actually responded to himself in the scene, and everyone
That's
else
wild.
in the scene has to pretend that they don't hear Venom because it's just like playing in the studio or whatever.
So it's like how
I
they
love
filmed
that.
Her, but stupider.
It's just like that. And it's also a love story about two sort of personalities that are of different, I guess you could say,
Yeah,
species.
one of whom the personhood is kind of questionable.
Yeah.
The personhood.
Her is also part of this Venom cinematic universe, it seems, but
Her was created by the Life Foundation.
yeah, exactly.
There we
Yeah,
go.
Samantha,
There you go.
the AI was Anthony was Venom
Venom
good?
good?
I wouldn't say it's good, but I also wouldn't say it's bad. I say it's in this miasmic
Coward.
like void space between the two that shouldn't be like. You have your good side and your bad side, and then you have the in between. Venom is like
Stuck in the middle with Venom.
Yeah.
like
I feel like it's
tangential
oscillating.
it's oscillating in this unknown space between that is like neither good nor bad.
It's like the
Yeah.
derpy middle, essentially.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's.
It's true neutral.
I
It's
think once the lobster scene happened, I was
chaotic
just
neutral,
I
surely.
shouted out
chaos
loud,
neutral.
"What the fuck is
Yeah.
this?" And the people in the theater straight up laughed along with me, and it was pretty good. Like, what am I watching?
You know what? It reminds me. There's this vine of like. I'm not well versed in vines, so I can't.
Oh, me neither.
so it's like essentially it's like this girl, like she's in the same thing. She's in the bath like fully clothed, and she's like, I'm washing
washing me and my clothes, bitch.
Yeah.
Me and my clothes. Yeah.
All right,
you guys.
Yeah, I brought that up earlier a little bit.
I immediately thought of that, and it made me realize even more how much of a special child Venom as a movie is.
Yeah, it's very different.
Yeah.
There was no second act to this movie. It just was like the stuff happened and then it ended. Like Venom as a character was like kind of like weird. I didn't understand why it was like why he was just like, oh, so now I'm gonna eat this person, and then it's like, oh, and then it's like making like weird jokes later on. So it like that didn't like, it felt like two different Venoms where it's like one was trying to crack jokes and the other one was trying to be like, oh, this is the rules of the game now. So it was just I don't know.
Can I be honest? Venom was my favorite part of the movie and the most realistic character. I'm not kidding.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Because that whole thing, the thing you just described as being, the whole thing you just described as being weird is totally like how I would behave in that situation of like, man, I really wish I could eat people, but first I gotta break the ice. Hey, I was kind of a loser on my own planet.
Hey, I was a loser. Maybe we should be friends. And I know you're kind of a loser too. Let's team up.
Yeah,
I like that part.
I'm gonna neg this guy super hard so that he'll let me eat some heads of people.
I like the part where like you realize that Venom like has had like a change of heart and that like he like wants to betray his friends, but like he's the only one that knew that the whole time, and like he's like revealing this to Eddie as they're like running to the thing. I don't know. I'm gonna defend this movie
with like 10 minutes left in the movie.
I feel like Venom is. I feel like Venom is just is the only one that actually like. If you watch as soon as Venom enters the movie, he's just like, oh, I'm just figuring this shit out. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And then he's just like, oh, this is fun. I enjoy this. Yeah. And then like all the action sequences is like, oh, this is fun. I like getting chased and not biting the heads off part.
Real quick, on the action sequence side of things, can I just say that one climax between Venom and the silver one?
Riot.
Thank you. I'm very bad with names. Between Venom and Riot, was like I really visually enjoyed that. I usually hate
I
fight
agree.
scenes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
No, I actually thought that the fight scenes were actually enjoyable. I thought that the smoke one where you see Venom there's all those SWAT people.
The smoke canisters.
Yeah. Oh, that was cool.
And I thought that was like
Sure.
a really cool fight scene and a really cool.
The pacing of the fight scenes was really good. Like slow-mo has become such like a crutch and it's so like overused sometimes, but when it was used here I couldn't even tell if it was being used or if like the characters were just like straining to make progress. Like I really enjoyed it. Yeah
I thought that one of the funniest parts of the first action sequence was like, why are there like actual like remote control drones like flying around? Why are
release
they
the
not,
drones?
Like, release the drones. This is a superhero movie in some alternate universe. Why are they like the fucking Super Bowl drones and not like some bullshit like Tony Stark drones? Like, are they like knockoff
Yeah,
shit
they're just
you
like
buy in a
quadcopters.
fucking bodega? It's the drones you buy in a bodega.
Anthony, they put all the funding into the special fight scenes. You know, the drones are just
and the lobster
sort of
scene.
Walmart
There's a lot of lobsters in that.
I really want to talk about the bland head of security guy and like his whole.
Oh,
the
bald
Jason
dude.
Statham type that you mentioned.
A Jason Statham type, yeah. As he's
Not even.
Yeah, in the notes. When he gets his head bitten off, I'm like, oh, thank God, that's over. You know what I mean? Like,
God,
he's so
I was
flat.
so worried that he was gonna stick around to come up in the final fight scene and have like some role to play. Oh, thank God they got rid of him. They should have cut him from the script, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the script felt like it felt like a very early draft because there were just so many parts that were just like you guys were saying how rushed some parts felt. So I mentioned in the review that it felt like a bot wrote this because it felt like it felt like it picked tropes and like lines and moments and beats from like previous superhero movies and just kind of threw them together in a way that felt a little less coherent. So there were several scenes that I felt ended like 2 minutes earlier than they should have ended.
Yeah.
And I think like the best example is that 6 months later jump, because and Pete, we were talking about this scene where like how they're doing the tests on, like, I guess they're like, were they rats or something like that?
Yeah, bunnies.
But
bunnies.
Little bunnies. Yeah.
Bunnies,
yeah.
whatever. Yeah, I just default go to
It's
rats.
not whatever. They
first,
specifically
yeah.
chose bunnies because they're the most innocent, fluffy-looking things.
That's true. Yeah,
It was a cinematic
yeah.
choice.
All right, yeah, Ruben
Just like
Flesher,
having
yeah, you
Riot
got
choose
it.
all women so that it would be like super scary when they like did creepy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
And,
women are so like underestimating all the time. That's why
when
the last
Riot-
one was a little girl. Whoa.
When Riot when Riot follows that little girl into the bathroom, I was like, this is so this is just like uncomfortable. Like it's just like, I don't know.
So uncomfortable.
we're killing kids, man.
Wait, speaking of little
Hardcore
girls,
movie.
the part where Marcel and I lost it was when like the
little girl
villain guy,
walked out of
No. The villain guy was like he was hosting like a talk with those kids at his lab or whatever.
Yes.
Oh my
And
god!
this little girl
Yeah.
started talking, and all the kids were like, "Oh, but don't interrupt." And he was like, "Shh, don't silence her."
And then he doesn't answer her
like it was
question.
some moment.
Yeah.
where he
No,
brought
she
her up
never
and he gave
asked her
the speech.
question.
He never answered.
Yeah,
She asked
you
her
know,
question.
She never asked the question.
No, she never did. He brought her up and he gave her this speech like, people will try to silence you, and people like us see the world differently. Like, fuck all you other kids, I guess, on this career day excursion. Fuck all you guys.
So that's literally-
it's
that's-
this small girl.
That's a
And then he
very
gives her the
Elon
pin,
Musk
and the next
moment.
scene he has the pin again.
Yeah.
I mean,
Very
there's
Elon
probably
Musk.
multiple
That's
pins.
very
He has
Elon
like
Musk
8 of
moment.
those.
Yeah.
So that's exactly the type of stuff I'm talking about. Just like scenes like that just felt so like
It's
you get the
little
point
details
of the
like that where
scene.
If you had seen him like taking like refastening
Right.
the pin at the start of the next scene, I don't know. It's just little things like that bugged me. In
Yeah,
the editing.
like you get the point of that scene, like what that's trying to show about the character, but like nothing that anyone actually says in that. There was not a single beat in that scene that actually feels real at all. Like no one's talking like real people, and I was just confused, and like I can't
Riz
remember
Ahmed's
any
character
lines.
just says fortune
Yeah.
cookie quotes.
Well, let me know when it's time to talk about Riz Ahmed's character because I
Because I think I know where you were going with. You were talking about how they're doing the bunny trials, and then he's just like,
Yeah.
okay, do human trials, and then she's like, we're not ready, and he's like, do them, and then they do them. Like it makes no sense. Like that whole part.
Yeah, so like I've seen that scene in other movies before, but like the way they did that, it felt like they like cut it somewhere where it's
Skip the
like
part, yeah.
yeah, it's very strangely put together, and I just could not figure out like what happened like in the editing room during this.
Like Jenny
during this
Slate's, no, you don't
production.
understand. Like there are HIPAA violations we have to consider. Like we're not going to legally be able to do that.
Nope, let's go.
Okay.
They signed waivers. What?
Isaac in the Bible. Isaac was the son.
Oh
of
yeah, the
Abraham.
Isaac thing. Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Hey, okay,
Story.
as a Catholic person, right? That is not correct.
Yeah, he doesn't even know. Yeah, exactly. He
No,
doesn't know.
everything that character says is straight up bullshit. And
It's
no one
just
ever calls him.
literally wrong.
He literally ended that speech by saying, "This time I'll do better." And no one is like, "Hey, dude, did you just call yourself God like twice? Like, are you sure about it? Are you sure? Are you good?"
I mean, Elon Musk definitely calls himself God a couple times a day.
I mean,
Chris, you can relate to this. So the
Yeah.
ship crashes in East Malaysia, right? And then they say,
Yeah.
it's in it landed in Cebu. Cebu is in the fucking Philippines.
Philippines, yeah.
That pissed
Oh
me off.
God! That's when you know the movie's going. I didn't even see that part because that was when I was still running into the movie theater.
Yeah.
And by running, I mean walking.
Yeah.
A brisk walk.
And they have
Brisk
that.
walk.
They have that. Like that scene where she's like walking into like the market. I've seen that market like every time some like Southeast Asian country is being portrayed.
Oh,
it's like
right.
the
Yeah.
market with like the raw like chickens.
it's the set they have.
It's like the one set they have.
Yeah.
Yeah, they use that over and over again.
Someone tell me what Riz Ahmed's motivation in this movie was.
To apparently fuck up his experiment like really bad. Because that's the other thing. After they go to human trials, all of the symbiotes are dying, and it's like you have 4 of these like alien creatures. You have no way of getting any more, and 3 of them are dead. Don't you think you should slow down a little bit, Riz?
Bud.
Well, that's why he got so mad when they let one of them die.
Yeah.
When they he put it in the scientist and then expected everything to go smoothly.
No.
And
He
instead
was
the other scientists were like,
he was like framing that as like an accident because he didn't want them to admit that he let the thing loose. And the whole point of that scene is he's like, why could you, like, how could you let this happen? Like, this is like a rare creature. And the scientists are like, what do you mean? Like, because they thought he'd be upset about Jenny Slate dying, but it's about...
No, they were there when he said release the creature, I thought that whole scene was not about, like, how could you let this happen to Jenny? It was, how could you let this symbiote die?
Right,
you watched
that's what he's
as this
upset about.
symbiote died, yeah.
But that's what I'm saying, like, I think, I don't know. The movie was confusing. I thought what happened was he released the creature...
You are right, you are
just him and
correct
Jenny
about
Slate.
that.
Yeah, the fact that we're debating about this many scenes and what was their point just goes to show you how this movie was not well done.
It lacked so
that
much
one
context
the
and
character
framing.
from Luke Cage is in this.
Who?
Oh, sure, the guy from the
Chessman.
barbershop.
Yeah.
Guy
Yeah.
from the barbershop who plays chess.
Oh yeah, because he says in season 2, is it the same guy? Because he says in season 2 that he's going to San Francisco.
Oh my
Wait, are you
god.
serious?
It's
No!
adjacent. I don't
I
think. Wait, did he
didn't-
say
I
San
didn't see him
Francisco?
in Venom. Where does he show up in Venom?
He was the boss man of like when he was.
Oh, it's definitely not the same guy. Never mind. He
Unless
moved to
he
San
is.
Francisco and takes over a major. That
Yeah.
no, yeah, that's not it.
The scientist who tries to cancel the launch was also the evil executive in Cloak and Dagger season 1. So there was a lot
Oh
of
my
weird,
God.
like, oh, I know that dude.
That's weird.
Dude's whole like scene arc. Marcel and I were as soon as like Riz Ahmed is like making demands and the guy's in the back just like covering his face with his hand,
Yeah.
just like I'm like me too, buddy, me too. His face
Oh,
journey was so
God.
relatable in that scene.
Sweet Jesus.
So this is like a sort of backtrack, but since it is sort of related, I will say that like this, it's weird because like I think most of this money CGI wise definitely went into like making Venom like my personal opinion, like kind of a badass, like the character Venom. The rest of the movie was like obviously like not great. The rest of the movie like not as good CGI, but like the CGI with Riot, so you'd expect it to be like on some of like a similar level if they're focusing that much on like the CGI characters. But Riot felt like a little bit off for some reason, like compared.
That's
to
because
Venom.
Riot's gray and everything else in the entire rest of the movie was also gray. So probably making Riot like it just probably kind of like blended with the rest of the background.
Part of me almost wants to give a designer credit for that because it makes him look more alien and weird, but I don't know if it was intentional. I hesitate to give credit for that, but it could have been an interesting choice where they purposefully made this one monster look very visually disparate from the rest of the movie, and not quite fit in visually because of Alien. And meanwhile, Venom is much more tangible and like just tangible looking. Also, fair warning, my cat just woke up, so there may be cat noises in the future.
Right.
That's fine.
Well, we can always have another guest, so.
I thought that the weird interjection of what Eddie Brock does into this is the Eddie Brock show, and then like that weird
Brock show.
montage was like of what the Eddie Brock show was like unnecessary and kind of out of nowhere. But I just thought that whole thing was funny because he's an investigative reporter and he was investigating things that were happening at the moment.
Yeah, and like he just steals like from his lawyer girlfriend, right? Like if he had made it, I don't know. It seems weird. Like it seems like he would know the stakes of doing that more. Than just
and he
do
didn't
that
even
so
cover his
flippantly.
tracks.
No, it's so obvious, like that they're gonna put that together and be like, oh, obviously he got this from his girlfriend who is working on this case that he brought up in this interview.
You would think that as an investigator, he might consider that there would be an investigation. But
No.
such is the life of Eddie Brock.
I want to see the dailies of this production of Tom Hardy just walking around San Francisco recording B-roll footage for the Eddie Brock show and just like it's like just meandering around the streets and just talking in his
We're
weird
here in
accent.
Oakland where there's protests. A dead body was found in the trash.
So much of this movie, like the way the framing and lack thereof, felt like a student written work
Right.
of like someone not knowing what to establish and how to establish it. Like the whole thing, all the stuff of like what his reporting looks like and all that it's very student film to like show all of that.
Yeah, to open with a news montage is like the oldest trick in the book. It's like the first thing they tell you not to do, right?
Yeah, like that's like very 2000s to hark back.
Yeah. I always go back to those scenes in there seemed to be a weird thing with basketball courts in early 2000s superhero movies, specifically with Catwoman and Daredevil. Talking about
the playground scene.
Daredevil had Catwoman had the scene of like Halle Berry playing basketball with that guy, and it's like very weirdly sensual, and like all these kids are watching, and it's just the most bizarre thing ever. And the camera is just like moving back, and it's like swinging back and forth, like someone
with the ball,
I think in the yeah, someone compared it to like a Lunchables commercial, which I think is very accurate.
Oh my god!
Reese's Puff.
I was just waiting for them to turn into liquid and for them to do the Capri Sun thing. Yeah.
Capri Sun, yeah. And then the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie had the part with like he's like sparring with Jennifer Gardner as Elektra, and like the camera movement is like very similar in that respect. I want to say that guy also made the first Nick Cage Ghost Rider movie, so like he like it's like a very like Paul W.S. Anderson aesthetic of like stylish is like doing random camera movements and like making people do over the top stuff, and like that's I can kind of see why people compare Venom to that kind of movie. And yeah, people were saying it feels very pre-MCU, which
like the Daredevil, Catwoman, the Blade, the X-Men 1.
It even has a few echoes of Iron Man, like some of the storytelling beats that Iron Man falls back on. I'm particularly thinking about the Pepper Potts arc, where she is literally the exact same arc as the girlfriend in this movie, where she like
and the same
shows
wardrobe.
up to save the day out of nowhere. Yeah, the same wardrobe.
The white shirt, the black skirt.
Yeah, the professional woman wardrobe. Is what that's called. Almost the same hair, slightly different color.
Oh yeah.
So I just posted a meme that I found.
Yes, I see.
So
I'm
I think
upset.
It's an important comparison because if you think about it, like in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, Norman Osborn sort of convincingly plays this part of like the CEO/scientist who like kind of goes mad and like abuses his company power, but he does it in ways that make sense, where he like has access to these labs and he's breaking into them. You know what I mean? And you like think about it as much. And it has the same plot arc where he like kills his like assistant or type and like is surprised by it. You know.
I mean, Willem Dafoe was like made for that kind of role
because he already looks like a goblin man.
Willem Dafoe as Venom would have also worked.
Yeah, you need like a Michael Shannon type, like someone who just expect to go crazy like every single movie that they're in.
So like Jared Leto. It's like Jared Leto.
Phoenix.
See, I don't think
not Jared Leto.
I don't think any of that would work though. Like,
never Jared Leto.
Like
never again.
Like if you have Michael Shannon in the Venom suit, and then Venom like comes on, and Venom's like, "Let's go eat some heads," and Michael Shannon's like, "Yeah, I love eating heads. I already do that." Like, you know what I mean? Like,
and Venom's like, "Whoa, slow down."
Yeah, Venom's like, "Okay," I'm like, "I can't." Like it makes more sense for the. That's why the Aw Shucks accent. I'm not gonna say it works. I'm not gonna say it doesn't.
No.
Like
It's so weird.
But like that's what he was trying to do. Like he was trying to be like this guy who like doesn't want to eat heads.
The most 2000s thing in the movie, I think, has to be Eddie's wardrobe. Like with like
it was just a gray sweater,
like the hemp bracelets around all those bracelets around his wrist,
and
like the clunky boots and
the gray sweater,
the sweatshirts,
very Ryan from
the motorcycle thing. Yeah, very
motorcycle.
Like, cool guy with semi-skateboarder surfer vibes from the 2000s.
If Eddie Brock was really like a man of the people and like cared about the homeless, he would be taking public transit.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Was there? I feel like there's a trolley scene.
It was a trolley scene, but
there's a trolley.
There's more like to San Francisco public transportation than like just the trolley, right?
Yeah, no one takes the trolley.
Yeah, but
you take
how else are you gonna know it's San Francisco?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Do you guys remember the guy playing guitar, electric guitar? Across
that
the room?
scene.
That scene drove me nuts because they mixed in his neighbor plays really loud guitar music, and they mix in the audio just like over everything, so it just seems like the soundtrack for some reason. Like it doesn't sound like it's coming from the next room over. It just sounds like it's like really confusing and jarring like when it happens.
Also, Tom Hardy throughout those entire sequences are like, what are you doing?
The hand scene?
Like the yeah.
The hand scene was like, what? I was like I get it, but I'm also like, what?
The hand scene as depicted in the collectible comic book.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Wait, is it actually in the comic book?
It's that scene and the Venom makeout scene. Those are the two scenes.
The two essential, integral.
They really did pick.
They
that
nailed
cream of
it.
the crop.
They picked it, yeah. I thought that line was really funny when they first start talking and Venom goes like, "Let's rip off all their heads and put them in the corner," and then he's like, "Why would we do that?" And he goes, "Pile of bodies, pile of heads." And it's like, what?
Like, yeah, that's alien logic. That's why I like Venom.
I thought that was so fun. I actually thought that was really fun.
Because he's just an alien and he just sees like humans as like, you know, pecans or like pistachios. Like it's just, you know.
So, did Venom have more of a story arc than Eddie Brock then? Because I cannot even think of what Eddie Brock's story was.
Venom is the only thing in this movie that changed. The only person in this movie that changed is Venom.
It's Venom.
Yeah.
And I love them.
Venom realizes that they're amazing. So
Venom is not a good movie, but Venom is good.
Yes.
And I had a good
Yeah.
time.
I think that's my thesis. That's exactly how I feel.
That's my review of the movie.
Yeah.
Venom,
enough,
good.
yeah.
Venom the film, not good. Me, had a good time.
Oh, they also have the scene where Jenny Slate is sneaking up on him at the convenience store.
Oh yeah, when
my
he's just
God.
talking to himself.
Yeah.
someone took the time to make that and draw that.
It was a
I love that she
terribly
was like
directed scene.
surprised when it turned out he was talking to her. Like, was she not surprised when he started talking to himself? For me, that would have been like,
to be fair,
man,
that's
he
been
found
characteristic
me.
of him throughout the whole, like, up to that point. 'Cause
Yeah.
He has been acting pretty
Yeah,
crazy.
but does she know that? She just starts tailing this guy like...
that's before he gets the symbiote, too, isn't it?
Yeah,
is weird,
because that's when
yeah.
she gets him to... But she starts tailing this guy very badly, apparently, and falls into this grocery store, and he starts talking to himself about his history as a reporter. And she's like, "Oh man, I'm so stealthy. There's no way this is connected."
It's foolproof.
I thought that scene was savable. Like, I feel like
I enjoyed that scene.
Yeah, I feel like they did it
was
too
fun.
fast, and also it was in the trailer, so like everyone saw it already. But like, I don't know.
Like a turd in the wind.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So
why was Venom like they had the whole conversation before about like we only eat bad people, and then they were in the bodega and they were talking, and then all of a sudden it's just like bad person, and he's like, yeah, and I thought that was really cool. I thought that kind of like interaction was like, oh, this is a cool little thing. And then Venom comes out, and then like Venom is just like, no, don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah,
be better.
They doubled back and then doubled back again.
Yeah, like he's like
he
he was
like,
acting
oh,
like he
come
wasn't
on.
going to eat him, but he was totally going to eat him the whole time. Yeah.
I get what they were going for, but it kind of ruined the payoff. Like when he says like bad guy. Like everyone, I feel like in the theater kind of gears up to like watch like this, you know, this thing go down, and then it turns into like
turd
a
in the wind.
conversation, like a negotiation scene, and then all of a sudden he eats him anyway, and it's like, well,
I got
kind of lost the momentum there.
Also, he can never go to that store again because like.
Oh yes, he can.
Yeah, because he knows the owner. Like, they're good pals, apparently.
Right, but he ate a head in front of her. Like, he ate...
Yeah,
like she's
which
not
means
gonna
he
be
can now do whatever he wants in that store.
Mm.
Because if he comes in, what is she going to do? Call the cops
Can't kick
on
him
this
out.
person who can eat her head before... Like, there's nothing.
So that was the last scene of the movie, right? Because he just kind of
No.
walks out of the.
Yeah,
No, wait,
unless you
what's that?
count the prison red
Before
scene,
we
which
talk
doesn't
to
make
the
any
horrid,
sense.
before we talk about the Carrot Top scene, can we also talk about the fact the Stan Lee cameo is exactly the same as the Spider-Man cameo in Spider-Man the game.
Was there a Stan Lee cameo in here?
Chris
I don't
and Pete
remember.
will be the only people to get because they played.
I'm in the weeds here. I'm totally in the weeds
I
here.
don't remember.
In Marvel Spider-Man, the PS4 game,
Oh,
Stan
no, I
Lee
thought you were
makes a
talking about Venom.
cameo.
Yeah.
Stan Lee makes
yes,
a cameo.
I know that. Yeah.
That interaction that Stan Lee has with Peter in the game is the exact same interaction.
What does he
that
do in Venom?
Stan
He's
Lee-
like, oh, you like she'll.
You two are great together.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
in the
I
game,
remember.
he says,
Yeah.
"You
Stan
two are
Lee
great
uses
together."
to reinforce hetero-romantic relationships.
Bland.
Next up is
heterosexual
chastity.
relationships.
Yeah. Oh, Stan Lee. Just let Spider-Man be gay.
That's so weird. I like. I totally forgot about that cameo. Like, there were just so many weird things in the movie that, like, that's the thing that was just too normal for me to even remember.
Yeah.
That's accurate.
It was one of the things that held the movie back. Like,
One-
it
one of
lost
the-
momentum there.
One of the things that was actually interesting was that I didn't think it was actually about Michelle Williams. I thought it was about him and Venom.
Yeah, but
okay.
but if it was, I
That
mean, it
would mean
totally
that-
was. But then just cut Michelle Williams out of it. You know what I mean? Like, there was so much friendship and like romance, not genuine romance between Venom and Eddie Brock. They could have just.
I mean, can I go through this bullet list? Because, so, Chris, in the notes for this episode that you sent out, one of the questions, the topics to address is like thoughts, what thoughts on the Eddie Venom sort of phenomenon.
Sure.
So my bullet points are in order. I might just read them verbatim. The first one is, the female love interest had zero chemistry with him. They made out. They made Venom's other form so womanly to make it less weird, but it was still weird. It was so weird, Marvel. The internet is so horny for Venom. Tentacles, teeth, tongue, etc. I don't know why that's there. I think that's in the wrong section.
Sure.
Venom literally betrayed his entire planet because of Eddie. He tells Eddie this. And he literally rebuilt Eddie's broken heart.
That's true. Yes, physically.
Literally,
Yes.
He literally, after Eddie breaks up with his girlfriend, his fiance, he's like, your heart's atrophied. You can't survive. And Venom's like, I can fix that. And just like in Holes, he does.
He does say
He gets
that.
impaled,
That is
right?
something he
And
says.
then he gets impaled. He gets impaled
Yeah.
through the heart.
He gets impaled through the heart and he saves him again.
It's like at the last moment.
A very
when the hands
Notebook
touch.
line.
Also, like, here's another thing that this is a separate thing, but just like on the topic of like
You were gonna
them
eat
not
me.
doubling down on that like I
Vetty,
wanted them
Vetty,
to.
or is it Vetty or is it Brenham?
What?
The
No, it's
Eddie-
just Venom.
It's just Venom.
Because
we
they are
are
Venom.
They
We
are
are
Venom.
Venom.
Oh,
Yeah.
Bum, bum,
sorry.
bum,
Yeah,
bum.
Anthony, didn't you watch the freaking
God.
movie?
Idiot.
The last
Come
line,
on.
Jesus.
Get with it. Anyway, so
we are hashtag
Yeah.
Venom.
We are hashtag Venom.
what more do you want? Anyway, what was it again? Oh yeah, no, I just wanted more of the like the ramifications and lore behind the whole symbiote relationship and like the history of the species and all this stuff. Stop it, cat! Stop it! Leave that alone. Sorry. She was wrestling. I wanted more. I wanted the movie to dig in deeper into the ramifications because there's like a couple scenes where we talk about, the fact that Venom is like destroying Eddie's body and like how symbiotes sort of, disintegrate their hosts and stuff. And it's not really addressed if the reason that doesn't happen with Eddie is because Venom gets to eat people or if it's unrelated and it's just like it needs to be a super good match between them. And then also it's like we kind of find out that Venom wasn't lying about fixing Eddie's heart by like when they separate, Eddie doesn't die immediately. Like maybe, but it's not. None of this is given like the time it needs. There's all this pointless exposition up front with like the aliens crashing and like here's how we're doing research on them and stuff, but we never
I
actually.
have weaknesses, but you don't really explain all the other stuff.
Yeah, we'll just bring up the weaknesses, because we need them.
I actually think that I don't know, because I was thinking about it, and I think there was like a pretty good amount of like, I guess that interaction between like Eddie and Venom, and I don't know how I would have felt if they added more on set, because it would have been entertaining. I would have liked to see it, but at the same time, like I think there was still like a good amount of like what I see of Venom and Eddie interacting. At the same time, I also know that like there's gonna be a wave of Eddie Venom smut that I do not want nor want to see or am prepared for.
I mean, they're just so close,
I mean,
Yeah.
You're not following the right people on Twitter
Eddie
already.
literally a few times in the movie, Eddie's like, he's up my ass, and then he sees Riz Ahmed with an alien, and he's like, he's up your ass too. Like, what the? Like, oh my god. Okay, to be clear, I don't mean to say that there should have been like way more Eddie Venom scenes or that I was missing content there. I just mean what did exist and the interactions around that relationship were lacking depth in the ramification way to me. I'm just a huge nerd for world building and lore and stuff.
Lethal Protector, more like Lethal Weapon, right?
I thought you were gonna say Lethal Injector.
Oh.
So in those rom-coms where it's like the second act of the movie and the guy brings the girl out to the balcony and says, "Isn't this beautiful?" That happened in this movie.
Yeah, it did. They climbed the top of the
They climbed the top of the building right before the airplane.
This world's not so bad. It'll be a shame once we destroy it or whatever that shit is.
Yeah.
Like.
Right.
What a way to ruin date night is reveal that you're about to destroy the whole freaking planet. Venom is such a loser.
loser, Eddie.
I really hated that accent. I thought it was god fucking awful.
It was like New York meets Chicago.
You know what it was? Because so Jeremy Renner has like this accent that's like it's American, right? But like it has like this distinct twang. And it's like kind of like alluring, and it's like Tom Hardy tried to do that, but like absolutely like does not do it correctly at all.
I understand what you mean.
It's a failed.
I don't know how to explain it, but I know exactly what you mean.
It's a failed Jeremy Renner impression. That's what this accent is.
It just sounded sounded like it came from nowhere. Like you couldn't place it really anywhere. That's why it was so hard to deal with.
Like he was totally convinced that was like some regional accent, and everyone was just kind of going with it, and like he was just.
Yeah.
Don't tell him.
Is Tom Hardy British?
Yes. Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah.
Because Benedict Cumberbatch-itis.
You know, he is like he.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm an American.
But his voice work is usually very good.
Tom
Right,
Hardy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Tom Hardy. Yeah.
Decent in he was decent in Mad Max, but then again, he didn't talk that much in Mad Max.
He just kind of talked like this in Mad Max.
I think it's iconic, if anything.
Yeah.
Who was more crazy?
Tom Hardy certainly does create iconic performances.
For you.
Have you seen Tom Hardy in Star Trek Nemesis?
No.
He plays like a young clone of Picard, and so he's bald and he has like a very posh British accent. He's very skinny, and it's a very bizarre performance. 2003 Tom Hardy. Sam, you should watch Star Trek Nemesis.
I'm writing it down right now.
Yeah, I'm putting it on my
Holy
list.
Yes. Wow. Yeah.
There is
Oh my God.
Actually,
find a piece of paper.
here's something. This is definitely off topic, so we're probably gonna cut this out. But there's a screenshots
you've
of
heard
Tom
this.
Hardy's screenshots of Tom Hardy's MySpace profile that are really
That's
good.
what he looked like. Oh my God! In this movie, he looked like a guy from MySpace. For real? No, he did. He looked like MySpace, the man. That's what the aesthetic is.
You
I'm
know
not
they would have
kidding.
if they did this in early 2000s, they would have made a fake Eddie Brock MySpace profile for viral marketing, and
Oh my God,
I'm
yeah.
so sad that MySpace. I'm so sad they made this movie in the wrong year. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, they really did.
If Sony released Venom in like early 2000s, do you think it would do as well, or like have like this same like status of like this room like amalgam of mystery? It'd be
It would
good.
be considered good. It would
No,
be
because
considered...
even
don't-
back
no, it
then,
wouldn't.
those movies were not considered good. Like,
It
no
would
one
be-
talks
Oh,
about
yeah.
Catwoman
Yeah.
anymore.
Also, like, it would be so much more like if you didn't adapt the humor at all, or any of the sort of tropes that it relies on, it would be even more incomprehensible. So
Not to mention, I feel like the only legs it really has to stand on even today is like the phenomenon you were talking about, like if you talk about like social media was not the same back then as it is now. So like the fact that like, do you guys have any favorite Venom fan art that you've seen, by the way, now that we're on the subject?
Nope.
No.
I haven't seen
Are
any.
we moving into the not safe for work section of the podcast?
I like this one of like, I've seen a lot of like wholesome, like
I don't want that.
It's not like smutty, it's
we
just
need
like
to
wholesome.
respect Izzy's wishes.
I had to look for this Polygon article.
What is this? What is this picture?
This is Tom
What is
Hardy's
this giant picture
MySpace
of a
profile.
cat?
Oh, I thought you were talking about this smut.
No,
Whoa.
it's just
wow.
Tom Hardy hanging out with his cat.
Wait a minute.
Oh
hold
my
on.
God.
Hold on.
Yeah, sure.
This is Tom Hardy's MySpace
Oh
profile.
my god, 2005. Okay, so this is post Star Trek Nemesis.
I never realized he had so many tattoos.
Pre Bronson, I would say. I think Bronson came out, I think, 2006
He's all
or
fluffy.
7.
Yeah,
because
well,
I put
you
him
can
in a
tell.
bath.
You can tell it's
I
pre
told-
Bronson because of his build. He's like not.
Yeah.
He's not all jacked up.
He looks like he's in Train Spotting. But he doesn't want to hang out with them. He wants to sit on my shoulder and stare and watch MTV in the room. So anyway, she says you can keep him in your room, no problem. She says you can keep it in your room, no problem. No problem.
He's
A
a
litter
good guy.
tray, hallelujah.
On the way back from the internet cafe yesterday, there's this kitten in the road, and I'm like, "Hey, cat, what's up?" Is literally what he wrote.
I was not talking about smut, Izzy. I'm talking about like wholesome, like
Oh, the kids,
Venom's
the kids
worried.
love Venom.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah,
Kids
like
love Venom.
like they were like
Talking about
Venom's
fluff.
worried that Eddie has a cold, or like there's a cute piece of fan art of like Eddie Brock and like Venom like looks like a hoodie, which I think was kind of a neat
Yeah.
little image.
Oh yeah. I was thinking. I was
yeah,
thinking about that.
that's what I'm talking
Chris,
about.
please forward me all these cute images.
There is a
I need wholesome alien content.
Oh wow, this is really good. I'm looking at Polygon article.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a Polygon article that has a compilation and kind of talks about the phenomenon.
Aw, yeah.
Yeah.
Hiddlestoner.
Gay alien rom-com.
Wait, what?
That's what the tagline is to the Polygon article. Fans are celebrating Venom as the gay alien rom-com it should be.
Oh no.
Oh,
Oh no.
no.
This is it's the Shape of Water.
Yeah.
I thought you liked monster movies, Sam.
No. It's a cowardly version of the Shape
It's
of
a
Water.
cowardly version of A Shape of Water. Yeah.
It's a cowardly version,
Mhm.
which is saying something.
I mean,
because
it's weird to even like put gender on Venom in the first place because he's goo from another planet.
That's true.
I mean, yeah. I would say I'm very excited for them to deal with that, but I know they won't.
Yeah.
But like the fact of the matter is, in this movie alone, Venom was a pile of goop, a sort of a humanoid male-ish figure, and a humanoid woman-ish figure. There's no, it's the whole spectrum: goo, male, and woman.
Yes, the genders. Three genders.
The three genders.
And then the
Three
Fire
genders.
Nation is
You
tagged.
know which one I am. Full goo, baby.
The one where they're taking care of their babies together is very cute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how they're gonna freaking deal with that in the sequels.
Oh.
Well, so
There
something
aren't any
so I read the backstory because I don't know anything about the characters, and like they're setting up Carnage to basically happen exactly how it happens in the comics. Because basically that character, Woody Harrelson's character, whatever his name is,
Carrot Top.
Carrot
Top.
Yeah.
Cletus.
Cletus.
Cletus
Yeah,
Formally.
Cassidy.
Cletus bonds with Carnage during a prison break, and Carnage is Venom's like spawn.
Child.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And it's supposed to be like Carnage, the symbiote, and Venom is supposed to be like abandoned father situation. Like,
Jeez.
you left me alone to not understand anything, and now I bonded with the serial killer.
Really gonna go back to bad dads, huh?
When we were
Yep.
waiting, when we were listening to Eminem and waiting for that scene to come up, Chris turned to me and said, "It's gonna be Carnage, and it's gonna be Woody Harrelson as Carnage, and he's gonna say."
I didn't say Woody Harrelson, but
No, right. You didn't know it was gonna be Woody Harrelson, but she's like,
Yeah.
"It's gonna be Carnage," and someone's gonna say, "There's going to be Carnage," and then Woody Harrelson did it.
Says that.
First of all, the reveal of Woody Harrelson just shook me. Like first, like his hair
it shook me to my core. After everything that happened in the movie, that was the most ridiculous thing I've seen. Like that was the
fucking
most
wig!
far-fetched.
It was so bad.
Like, what the fuck? It's Woody Harrelson, and it's like, wait, what's on his head?
What is on his head?
I looked at Woody Harrelson's face, and then I looked at what was on his face, and then I looked at what character that face and hair was supposed to be, and my brain couldn't put the puzzle pieces together. It was just a bunch of weird edges bumping up against each other, not making a picture.
They went to Party City. They got the first wig they
clown
found.
hair, fucking Ronald McDonald wig.
I was like, wait, is this the new Joker movie that they're talking about?
More like a Hunger Games character in that scene than he did in the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Why did he visit him in the prison again?
And an exclusive interview.
Yeah, because
First
he's
of
a
all,
high-profile serial killer.
How recently did Mr. Redhead get into prison? Because either he got into prison a long time ago when Eddie was in the heyday of his reporting, and thus why did he wait so long? Or he got into prison right when Eddie was disgraced, in which case, how does he know to contact Eddie now?
I would say
Or
Eddie wasn't
or
big
he
enough yet.
Just got. Or he what?
I think Eddie wasn't even big enough yet, like in his investigative days, like even interview Cletus, and then he finally interviews Cletus.
But then I'm saying, like, how did Cletus even know about him?
I think it's the kind of thing that he just didn't want to do an interview for a very long time, and like, you know, like they just randomly reached out to this person because like he like was a fan.
Because he's so random.
He loved the Eddie Brock show, and
Eddie Brock show, homeless people.
I actually thought so. Like when they were driving to a prison, I actually thought he was going to be talking to
Scorpion.
Wasn't
to
Alcatraz,
Matt Gargan.
Right?
Yeah. I don't think it was. But
it wasn't, right? Yeah.
It's like generic prison to me.
That would have been too much.
Yeah. I thought they were gonna do a Sinister Six thing, and like, and they're like, oh, that's the adjacent part. But I was like, wait, Woody Harrelson.
The only adjacent part is the end credit scene, where it's like in another universe,
Meanwhile,
and then cuts to 5 minutes of
into the
Spider-Man into the
It's beautiful.
Spider-Verse.
Well, I think they're just worried about that movie because it's animated, and like they have so many big stars on it. They like they want people to like go see it, so they were just trying.
It looks really cool.
The only reason I was upset was because I thought it was going to imply that Tom Hardy as Venom would appear in this multi-dimensional story, which would have made sense actually.
That's what I was actually thinking too. That's why I said meanwhile in another universe.
I remember thinking that the person chasing them was just going to turn out to be Venom the whole time.
Yeah.
It would just like catch Miles Morales, and then like it would be a dark figure. You see it's Venom. His face comes out. And it's animated Tom Hardy going, "I'm a reporter, by the way," and then it's just like cut to black, and they would say I love how it says in association with Marvel, but the association of is in tiny letters, so it's trying to trick you into thinking that it's an actual Marvel movie.
I read it the opposite way of like, guys, we can't let anyone know that we made this movie. It's like, oh my god, we have to say that, we have to put our name on it, but just like, oh my god, like in association with just like such a loose association with Marvel.
Yeah,
they use the old Marvel graphic too, not like the new one, the new fancy one.
Yeah, because this has nothing to do with Marvel Studios.
Because they're like, this is like what we would have made back then, like back when we were using this graphic.
Back when we were just licensing out the characters to a bunch of assholes who have no clue what to do with these characters.
What's changed?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had to say it. It doesn't actually. I don't believe that, but.
Oh well, I mean,
Venom brings it out in me.
Well, at the very least, like, even if like the MCU movies are like have made questionable decisions by, at least they were made by writers. Whereas I feel like the other movies were made by executives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like trying to find out what was good.
Like Kevin Feige, even though he's an executive, he's also a comic book fan, whereas Avi Arad is just like a dude who likes money and thinks that the kids love Venom.
The kids love Venom.
The kids love Venom.
The kids do love Venom.
The kids love Venom.
Love Venom.
I feel like, it's that same thing, and Pete brought it up, where it's like, you have your phase 1, like, superhero, like, companions ships, where it kind of feeds into the Arad, like, I only do it for money. It's like someone took oh, this is a Venom comic. Open it up to a random page. It's like, oh, this is in it. Let's include that in the movie. And it's like, that's not how anything works.
Yeah, exactly. Like he was forcing that on, like he was forcing that on to Sam Raimi's vision of Spider-Man 3, and that like obviously hampered the creative aspect of the movie.
Which one of these looks cool? And then we're gonna do the alien one.
Emo Peter Parker.
Yeah, well, yeah.
That was a stroke of genius.
Oh yeah, that was a great way to salvage that studio note.
Oh, sorry, I was thinking of Spider-Man 2 pizza theme.
So speaking of people who don't know what they're doing, this whole Sony Marvel universe that they're trying to make, do you see this actually going anywhere? Because unlike the Dark Universe, which we were talking about in the pre-show, I think, this will actually go somewhere because Venom made money. So next in line is a Morbius the Living Vampire movie starring Jared Leto, which is the worst thing I've ever heard ever.
Why do we keep giving it movies?
And then some sort of like Black Cat / Silver Sable movie.
Wait, I thought that got canceled.
Yeah. So they mentioned it during the press tour for Venom, so I guess it's back on.
I'm sure they like repackaged existing stuff because they need to scramble to make new things for
yeah,
this
exactly.
universe now that Venom's making money.
Yeah.
How are they gonna rectify all of this stuff with Tom Holland, the Spider-Man stuff?
Tom Holland will appear in the movie.
I think it's
which one?
Sort of like a wink, sort of a thing. That doesn't really like the same thing that Deadpool did, basically. I mean, like Deadpool 2 has nothing to do with X-Men canon, basically, but they had the X-Men in it.
They shot a cameo probably while they were making Dark Phoenix, and they just like copied and pasted it into that room in Deadpool 2.
No, they actually had them come to.
Were they actually there?
Set.
God damn it! Oh. I'm sure they were still filming the Dark Phoenix though, but yeah. I mean, what's the end game here? Are they going to make like a Sinister Six movie, or like, are they going to?
I don't know. I don't think there is an end game. I really don't. I think there is a now game, and the now game is
money.
Quick, more movies, more money. Quick. Who can we put in a movie? Like that's it. I couldn't even name drop anyone because I don't fucking know.
Yeah,
so
Morbius.
Morbius, quick!
I was watching.
Jared Leto's in superhero movies. Put him in there. Random.
Right damaged on his forehead.
Yeah. He is a scientist named Michael Morbius, PhD, MD.
Oh God.
Yeah.
God, just hearing that makes me tired.
What about? Hey guys, what about Doctor Strange, but like a little bit shittier?
Oh my God.
Like just a little shittier.
Just like even
throw some vampire. What year is it? Like people are into vampires now?
What year is it?
That's why. See, it's gonna be like the same thing as the Spawn movie, where the
it's
Spawn.
It's a decade of monsters, baby.
Here's what they do. They just get whoever directed the Underworld movies.
Yeah.
I forgot that Underworld movies fucking existed with.
Yeah.
Kate Beckinsale?
That person.
Yeah. Well, because here's my question to you. Do they keep going with the cheese? Like, if they realize that that's what people liked about Venom, and now they're in pre-production for this weird Morbius movie, are they just going to keep going with that consciously?
The problem is you can't do it consciously.
Sharknado. Yeah,
I've never
Sharknado
heard
effect.
of Morbius also, so I don't understand.
Yeah,
also,
the kids love Morbius.
I don't even know if it's like the kids love Venom because of the cheese. I think the kids just love Venom. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Venom.
Venom, yeah.
I love Venom authentically.
Venom.
How is Eminem doing on iTunes, by the way?
Eminem?
Eminem. I was trying to combine Eminem and Venom together to make Eminem.
Izzy, you had strong opinions on the Eminem theme.
Oh, yes.
Do you want to say why you
Oh,
loved
yeah, that's
it?
right. Let's get into this.
I will.
Yeah.
I will be the first person, and I will defend in my life that Eminem's Venom is actually a banger.
That is no.
Here's what I'll say.
Lyrics, lyrics.
Nope. Lyrics are bad, but that chorus is very catchy.
It's a catchy chorus.
And
it's a good.
I got that adrenaline
it's
momentum.
A great beat.
And I'm not knowing when I'm ever gonna slow up and ready to snap any moment. I'm thinking it's time to go get 'em. They ain't gonna know what hit 'em.
It's catchy the way like
Venom.
disease is catchy.
Yeah.
It's like herpes catchy. It's like not
Mayo
a good thing.
and went from
Catchy
helmets
like
and
a
being rail
parasite.
Thin. Filet-O-Fish, Scribble Jam, Rapolympics, 97, Freaknik.
Did I hear my name?
No.
Did you say Sam? No? Okay.
No.
Slim be a combination of an actual kamikaze and Gandhi.
Oh, I said Scribble
Oh
Jam.
my god. Oh.
Is he referring to? That's interesting. Is he referring to Gandhi from Civilization when Gandhi was glitched and would drop nukes on people and was actually very
That's
aggressive?
probably what Eminem was
Probably a
referring
deep
to.
cut. Yeah.
Eat
We have to check the
painkiller
Genius,
pills,
Rap
fuck
Genius.
up the track like what's her name at the wheel, Danica Patrick.
Izzy, you're out at a bar and Venom comes on. What? And everyone else around you collectively groans.
What do you do?
What do you do? Yeah. Like,
Do you give into peer pressure or do you go with your heart?
knock knock. Let the devil in.
Well, then I'll probably go with my heart, but depending on how drunk I am, is like how aggressively I will go with my heart.
Knock knock, let the devil in. Malevolent as I've ever been. Head is spinning. This medicine screaming. Let us in. Like a salad bowl. Edgar Allan
Let us
Poe.
in
Yeah.
like a salad bowl.
Like a salad.
Let
bowl.
us in
Edgar Allan
like a
Poe.
salad bowl. Let us in like a salad bowl.
The number of like forced slant rhymes in that song is staggering.
So at the end of it's him walking out the convenience store, right? And then he's just kind of like talking to Venom about like, oh, you can't do that, you can do this, yada yada, and it's like this very like comical back and forth, and then like the camera does the thing where it's like at the doors, and then it kind of goes up into the sky. And it's like this very lighthearted score.
Yeah, that's what happens at the end of a rom-com.
It might as
like,
well.
They walk, they hold hands and stuff, and they're walking and stuff,
Yeah.
and they're talking about how much they love each other, and then it pans up to a beautiful sun sky or
Right,
whatever.
and then, but like I mentioned in my review that like it felt so
Sam's laughing at me.
totally weird with the rest of the movie that they might as well have ended with the Looney Tunes "That's All, Folks," because it was just so.
That's the thing, is that the whole movie didn't know what genre it wanted to be, which is okay if it's purposeful, but I don't think it was.
Then,
like it.
I instantly got whiplash again when the Eminem song started because it was like, wait, what is this song that I'm listening to?
I honestly
and
could
it felt
not
like
believe it when that Eminem song came on. Like I totally forgot that was gonna happen.
When I heard that, I was just like, wait a minute.
I was like, oh, this Eminem song.
Eminem?
Like, oh, wait a minute, that's like not bad.
Izzy was head bopping.
I expected the credits to calm me down after that experience of a movie, but it just kept my energy going all the way to Woody Harrelson.
But I like
and
that.
Then it was like.
Then you see the wig, and then then it's like, what the fuck? And then the main credits are going, and you're just like, what did I just watch?
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah.
Going off the rails on a crazy train.
I thought the line was really cute when they're in the convenience store and Eddie's like, so what's it gonna be tonight? And Venom's like, tater tots and chocolate.
Yeah. Oh man, I thought it was very cute when they were walking away from love interest McGee, and I'm so bad with names. I'm sorry, I'm not doing it on purpose.
Michelle Williams.
They're walking away from Michelle Williams,
Which is also we're forgetting her name.
Yeah. Well, I'll take what I can get. They're walking away from Michelle Williams, and Venom says, "She has no idea we are going to get her back."
yeah.
I don't like. I think it's
so. Wait,
like,
hold on. If we know that Venom and Eddie are definitely in the relationship, does that mean that Venom is trying to get this poly relationship going?
Oh my god.
You've just accessed the deep web, Anthony. Anthony, welcome. Anthony, we're not going to talk about this anymore on the podcast, but just so you know, there's a lot of stuff out there.
No,
It's
I know
a
there is.
big, bright, beautiful internet.
Eddie Brock can never be intimate again without his best friend watching. His best friend and partner, Venom, watching.
Without his best friend experiencing.
Experiencing, yeah. And trying to eat
That's
his partner.
disgusting.
God, I can try to.
No, that's
I can only
that's a
imagine
whole other
that.
thing.
I didn't want that either. God damn it.
What possessed Michelle Williams' character to like see? I think like it possessed a dog at that point, and she just looks at the dog and I guess she jumps to the conclusion that she concludes that she should also be possessed by Venom to get him to.
I don't think
it
she
just
was unintentional.
Again, something that would have been fixed if Jenny.
I think
it made me think that it's
like I have to do it.
Slot.
Yeah.
I don't think she chose though. What if Venom just hopped out?
This
No,
is one of
the
the
look
many
on her
things
face
that
implies
would
that
have made
because she
more
seems so
sense if
chill
Jenny
about
Slate's
it.
Definitely
character
conspiring
had just
about- yeah.
played that part.
If Jenny Slate's character had played that part, that wouldn't be like they wouldn't need Dan, they wouldn't need Michelle Williams learning about it because she would already know. Yeah.
Yeah, no, she would like break them into the hospital to check up on them and to do like weird X-rays and stuff, and then they would get split up, and she would go searching for Venom. So when she found the dog and saw the eye thing, she was like, "Okay, this might kill me, but we gotta do it to save Eddie." Like,
well, like Michelle
so much
Williams
stuff could have been
That
really
was
cool and
actually- yeah.
intentional.
Well,
It was
Michelle Williams, I
dumb.
think, was kind of like that too. She's like, she looks at the dog, she's like, "Oh no, I have to do it," because like she still cares for Eddie. But like, also, I mean, granted,
But she doesn't have enough information to know that she has to do it or know what it means to do it.
I don't think
She's
it
the
makes
character
sense.
who knows to do stuff. Like she's the one who like
She's
used
a
the
walking
MRI
plot
machine.
device.
She's the one who like did the thing at the rocket at the end. And
Yeah.
you're totally right about her.
it's like, I mean, because like, granted, like Tom Hardy still told her that like,
Wait,
you know,
she blasted a sound out of the.
Yeah, so
She turned on the MRI.
yeah,
The
'cause,
high
like,
frequency-
Tom Hardy
at
did
the
that-
end, at the end,
Tom Hardy-
if she
Tom Hardy
just turned
told
on
her.
the speakers. She turned on the speakers, but you can't fluctuate the frequency of what comes out of the speakers.
No, Tony.
No, you don't
She
understand.
went to
She's a
YouTube.
lawyer.
She went to YouTube and she searched for 4,400 hertz, and she put that tone. She put an aux cord into the, and then she just played it out of the speakers.
Yeah. The classic aux cord in the high-tech science rocket launch panel. Yeah.
There was like a whole.
You gotta have tunes
attachment.
for the launch.
She didn't have her dongle, so she had to borrow someone else's.
Yeah.
Oh, was this in the
That's
40
why
minutes
that
that were
fight
cut?
scene went so long.
That's
Yeah.
in the 40 minutes that were cut. It was her going. Does anyone have a dongle? And then someone's like, "Oh, is it the 6?" And she's like, "No, it's the X, but I think it's the same."
And all of that is interspersed with scenes of Venom and Eddie just getting punched in the face, and then we're like, "Please, someone end it! Please, can't anyone help us?"
You know, I kind of like those scenes. I thought they should have been in the movie.
Wait, who are you doing?
Tom Hardy.
I'm doing.
I guess,
I'm sorry.
I'm
Were
doing.
you
I
doing
guess
an
that's
impression
Tom
of
Hardy.
Eddie?
I'm doing Tom Hardy.
But now
but
he's
it's Eddie Brock.
But now he's Bobby Cannavale.
But as actual Tom Hardy saying, "I wish those minutes were in the movie."
Have fun
Oh.
editing.
Oh, Chris, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
So what? 30 minutes of this is usable, right?
This podcast has aged me. Like I feel older now.
Yeah,
So,
gray hair.
so the actual real life year actually aged all of us a plus 50 years, but this podcast aged Chris an extra 10.
After this podcast is released, I'm gonna say, "Oh yeah, there's 40 minutes of great stuff that Chris just cut out."
Yeah, it's mostly us looking for a dongle.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
If we let's all make the collective pact to tweet that.
Actually, 20 minutes of it was Chris looking for a dongle, and the other 20 minutes were me yelling about the lyrics to the Venom song.
There was a point where I was like, "Wow, he's just gonna do the whole thing, huh?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That could have been its own episode,
I
honestly.
think you worked
Like,
through
this-
most
Bonus.
of it by the
Bonus.
multiple times you brought
For
it
the
up. I think you
Patreon,
actually got through most
Patreon
of the
supporters,
song.
we'll just release episode
Oh
2.
yeah.
We'll release an audio recording of me doing spoken word the Venom song.
Yeah. Every now and then I'll come in and shout, Venom!
Guys, this is the acoustic cover of Venom.
And then Sam comes in screaming Venom, and then all of a sudden you just hear snaps. Just snaps. Nice.
Oh, so this is a slam poetry now.
Yeah, it's spoken word slam poetry. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Venom!
Chris, just to tie us back in, what was the last thing you were discussing before we went off on a tangent?
I don't remember at all.
Was it Carnage?
It was what was next for the Venom universe.
Yeah, like what is there anything you want to see?
I want to see Ansel Elgort as the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Oh my god, we're never gonna. I think
Silence.
the
I want
podcast is over.
I want to see Silence of the Lambs, but it's Carnage.
I really want to see Venom
And
again.
Tony's
Actually,
laughing,
that
but
would-
I'm serious. I think.
No,
it'll be okay.
actually,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
it took me a second, but that would be good.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem with this movie is that they stuck to this like genre for some reason, like for no reason. Like there's no reason to have like the love interest.
That's
and, like,
wait.
yeah.
This should have been a horror
that's what we were
movie.
talking about. That's what we were talking about.
No,
we were
it
talking
should've
about
been a
genre.
comedy.
That's what we
It
were
should've been a
talking about.
romantic
Okay,
comedy.
yeah, yes. The tone of the movie was flopping around. That's what it was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It fluctuated between like buddy comedy and horror movie, and didn't even do the horror movie parts well because it gave away the game so early on, and it was so frustrating to spend most of the movie just watching Eddie play catch up for all of the exposition that we already saw in like the first 10 minutes of the movie. Just so frustrating. And like because I write horror for work, or I used to, and I'm sort of doing other stuff now, but
Sure.
It's the whole a lot of horror, a lot of good horror, let's say, not like jump scares and stuff, but a lot of narrative horror and visual horror is about slow reveals and obscuring things and revealing things in sort of glimpses and snapshots that are impossible to get the full picture of, and that sort of mystery is terrifying, and then the sort of abstraction is terrifying. And we saw everything in the first 10 minutes. And then when we went to the labs and Eddie was seeing all this horrible stuff, it wasn't frightening to us because we already had seen all of it already.
In
And
a
so
less frightening way, too.
Yes, exactly. In the brightly lit rooms over and over again. And if instead we had discovered things with Eddie, if the movie had picked up with like Eddie going about his business and then being tailed by this scientist and us finding out about this whole thing of like, oh, he was disgraced because he was onto something, and now the scientist is, trying to redeem herself by cluing him in, and then we find out about all of this through his eyes, maybe through his camera, like found footage style, as he goes through this lab seeing all these horrible things, trying to put the pieces together alongside him, rather than like just like waiting for everything to happen. Like Marcel, when we were watching this movie, Marcel continually turned to me during like the first 20 minutes and just was like, when's this movie gonna start?
Yeah.
Because it hadn't started. Like
Yeah.
we hadn't met Venom, who is it's Venom.
We are Venom.
I also think like the conflict between the horror movie and the comedy movie underserved the comedy parts, because you have all these scenes where it's like, oh, the parasites are like killing people and like eating these subjects. So then like all of a sudden it's supposed to be like funny when like Venom bites someone's head off, but it's like, well, that was just supposed to be scary. So like I don't really know how to feel about, you know what I mean? Like it's like
Yeah. It's also hard to get behind the Venom Eddie like dynamic and the sort of like the relationship they're supposed to have going. Like you're supposed to want them to be together. You know what I mean? Like you're supposed to want them to be Venom. But
Well, like, yeah, to be.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, to be Venom. Yeah.
I mean, like you want them to team up basically. But the whole lead up of the movie is like these symbiotes are killing people. And it seemed at first like maybe that was because they weren't perfect matches for each other or whatever. But then it's revealed that Eddie's dying anyway. But then Venom can fix it, so why hasn't Venom fixed it yet? Because they've...
It's like Venom is killing Eddie.
Yeah, Venom's
but
killing
Venom
Eddie.
can fix it because
Yeah.
they have to stay together.
Yeah. Venom was killing Eddie because Eddie kept eating tater tots and not like... No, really, because the whole thing is like they need to eat like live flat tissue for them to like be alive.
Yeah. Yeah, but that goes back to my lore question of, well, if Eddie was dying, why didn't he die when they were separated? Because he does a ton of action stuff after that point. Like when they're separated, he goes running, he does a bunch of action shit and escapes and does crazy stunts, and meanwhile his heart's literally atrophied in his chest. It's just,
Or maybe it looked like it was atrophying.
If you have an atrophied heart, aren't you like already dead? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
See that? No, that's why. That's why I'm saying like because Venom was inside Eddie when it was happening, when the MRI scan went through. So maybe the MRI scan says, "Hey, your heart's gone."
No, but then Venom confirms it when he says, "No, it's fine. I can fix it." Like that confirms that his heart is. Look, it's all these little. It's a lot of little details of things that just fell through the cracks of screenwriting, and
Yeah.
like there should have been a couple more edit passes on the script, and they could have really done with like not only a line editor but like a script doctor to smooth out a lot of the narrative inconsistencies and world building stuff, and also fix the freaking tone.
That's
and
too much
pacing of
work,
the
Sam.
movie.
Stop. No, they're not.
Sam.
Let me do the work, Chris. Hire me. Oh my god, that was probably way too loud. My roommates are home. Whoops.
So Sony, if you're
Let me check
listening,
that
if
Audacity
Aviaret
file.
is listening to this podcast, we got a writer for you here.
Here I am.
Yeah.
Hire me.
The new architect of Sony's Marvel universe in association with Marvel.
Oh my god, in
I
loose
feel like the movie kind of
association
like
with
starts like when they start fighting people as Venom. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's when
It
it feels like it
starts-
gets like starts to like grab you.
Marvel. Yeah.
Yeah, it
That's-
starts
that's
like I think
when-
at that
yeah.
scene. Yeah.
That's the turning point into the second act. The reason it doesn't feel like there's a second act is because the first act lasts 30 minutes of the movie. We don't have a turning point where where Eddie steps into a weird new world until he leaves the lab with a symbiote, which is like what, 30-40 minutes into the movie?
Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna argue that like you could sort of argue like in that respect that like the first act is just like the first like this before the 6 months later, which is completely unnecessary, and then everything where like where he responds to the symbiote and he's like adjusting. That's still all the second act, but you just don't realize it because it's just something. Yeah.
It's just the whole thing. I don't want to keep harping on the 30 minutes, but I also do. I'm not 30 minutes, 6 months. Oh my god.
30 minutes later.
30 minutes later.
It's so horrible.
They basically doubled down on the first act because they spend what, like 20-30 minutes doing a first act of like, here's the normal world, let's establish our characters and the way the world works, and then they break it and they do it again.
The only thing that was missing was Eddie Brock going, "Yup, that's me, Eddie Brock. It's just your average reporter."
Yeah.
There's
This is my
Just like an
fiance.
opening
She's
spiel.
great.
There's a Harmontown clip that
Yeah.
basically covers like why never ever do that ever. It's like, that's me right there. He's an idiot. And it's like, and that was me 5 years ago. I've changed since then. Maybe one
Yeah.
day.
Bet you're wondering how I ended up here.
I bet
Well,
you're wondering how I ended up there. Yeah.
after Thor Ragnarok, no one else can do it.
How will Venom be remembered? That's something we haven't talked about.
This will be remembered as a room movie. So like a movie where people see this at midnight, get really drunk, and not throw spoons at it, but throw something at the TV.
They'll throw lobsters and chicken legs from their trash can.
Tater tots, tater
It's gonna
tots.
be
Tater
it's gonna
tots.
be a little different from that in that this is gonna be one of those movies that sparks a lot of fan fiction.
Yeah.
It's gonna.
I don't want to
it's
think
gonna,
about that, Sam.
No, I'm not. We're not gonna think about it. I'm just.
We're not
saying.
gonna write it ourselves. We're just saying.
We're not
someone's
gonna write it.
do it.
We're not gonna write it ourselves.
This podcast is actually a workshop
but-
for our
Bitch,
fanfic.
y'all better not.
Not gonna write it ourselves.
No, probably
Cracks-
no. But so no.
cracks
But I'm saying that
knuckles.
it's like wow. I can't believe I'm about to do this. You know the movie The One Slur that came out a while ago?
Which one?
What?
I've heard of it.
I've never
It's
heard of
like
this.
the Lorax
Oh, sure. Okay.
movie, the animated
Yeah,
3D one.
Yeah.
No one remembers anything about that movie except that a lot of fan art came out about it and that there was like some bonkers stuff going on.
Oh
the
yeah,
internet
I
around
remember
movie.
that.
I don't think this is going to be exactly like that because, you know, there are actually, you know, some genuinely interesting things, but that's going to be part of its legacy.
Whoa! I typed in one slur, and immediately the first image that came up was fan art.
Well, yeah, because the movie was trash.
It's interesting you bring up the spoons, Anthony, because like in Pittsburgh there is like this sort of like there's this interactive room, like the room, but like interactive.
Oh yeah, it's
Sort of
it's all over the country.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've met Tommy
Yeah, like,
Wiseau through
I'll-
one of those.
Yeah, like a la Rocky,
Wow.
and like I could totally like look. I have a drinking game for Venom.
Yeah,
and, like I can
that's the
totally
thing.
see Venom, like being like the I can totally see Venom like being like this one, being like the room.
Venom,
one
the
day.
drinking game.
Yep. It's so quotable. It's such a quotable movie.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, I know this is already off the rails enough, but do you want to hear it?
Wait, what?
Oh, your game?
Is
Yeah,
it
I want to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so pre-game, if you watch Spider-Man 3, take a shot.
That's really good.
There you go.
Drink when every time Venom speaks in every time Venom speaks in A's head. Drink when every time Tom Hardy makes an acting choice you don't understand.
You want me to die?
Alcohol poisoning.
Like the first thing, the Venom talking alone would kill me.
Waterfall every time Eddie drink. Okay, also Eddie, a waterfall every time Eddie drinks, because the first thing like Tom Hardy does
is take a
when
drink
he
of
gets back
water.
he gets
he doesn't.
fucking beer.
He gets a beer, and
Why
Venom
would you
doesn't let
do
him
that?
drink that because it's bad for him, and he's trying to eat that liver.
Yeah,
That's
no,
so
we're trying to.
freaking
What a-
domestic.
That's
what
what's
an
happening.
attentive symbiote.
He's taking care of him. Yeah, but he goes for a beer, and Venom's like, "No, you can't drink that. You have to drink this water." And he's like, "Why am I getting water? I hate water."
Yeah.
I genuinely don't remember any of this.
I think you just made that
That's-
up.
that's
I don't remember
fine.
that.
No, that's very.
Izzy,
Yeah.
Izzy, what's next?
Take a shot every time Jenny Slate says symbiote in that weird way that sparked weird outrage for some reason. Take a
I think
shot
it's like 5 times.
Take a shot every time
Symbiote.
you've seen better CGI in life. The movie we were just talking about.
Oh, okay.
And then you take a shot when and the turd in the wind line, because of course you do.
I think you drink until dead for that one.
Like a turd.
Unless you're already dead, in which case, I don't know.
How strong is that wind? If you think about it, like that's.
Well, like, how small is the turd? How dried out is the turd as well?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Important questions here on AP Marvel.
It's gotta be like a cat turd because it's all
Look,
dried
this
from
is-
the
this
litter,
is-
and then
this
it's
is.
just
I'm
gonna...
I'm a bit of a scientist myself.
I'm a bit of a
This is sort
scientist myself. You know, something.
sort of hard hitting. You know,
I'm something of a
variable
scientist
covering,
myself.
It's all about the analysis.
I guess to transition into this last question, which we sort of discussed, but then lost track and then picked up the wheel again. What's next?
Yeah.
Do you want a sequel?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah, I want them to make
Oh,
more
yeah.
of these.
I need it now.
I can't tell if that's
It's
sarcastic
my money.
or
and
not.
It's my Venom,
No,
and
I
I
really-
need it now.
I can say very genuinely, I'm freaking stoked for a sequel.
I'm stoked. I think. Yeah. Well, I also think it could be one of those things where they could save it, like, right? They could make it work.
Yeah, no, this is very much going to be a movie that is determined by what follows it and how that frames it.
It's gonna be the Shrek 2 of Venom movies.
God, I knew you were going to reference Shrek. I bit my tongue so hard to keep from doing it, and as soon as I was like, oh, Anthony's going to take that crucible. He's gonna. It's not gonna be Shrek 2, because Shrek was a perfect gem of a movie. Okay, it wasn't like funny because it was bad or like a train wreck or totally dissonant. It was a perfect gem of a movie.
Are you saying Shrek 2 is a train wreck of a movie?
No,
No.
I'm saying that
They're just
Shrek
saying, like,
isn't
yeah.
like Venom. It's totally different, is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying, how dare you? I'm saying, how dare you? I love Venom and I love Shrek, but it's like apples and oranges. It's like
Venom and Carnage.
It's no,
Yeah.
it's not. No, because that's like
They're different
parent
colors.
and
I don't know.
child. No.
Shrek 2. Venom is Shrek. Carnage is the donkey.
What? Which one's
I'm
Puss
not
in
gonna
Boots
lie,
then?
I would love to see one of the
Jenny
a
Slate.
scene
Jenny Slate.
oh my god, she's
Jenny
back,
Slate's
she's
dead
wearing
body.
boots.
They
I'd
put a
love to see
symbiote on
scene
Jenny
in
Slate's
Venom
dead body.
2. I'd love to see a scene in Venom 2 that's like the dinner scene in Shrek 2, where they just say each other's names for a while. And Venom is saying people's names, but no one can hear him except Eddie, and he's very confused.
Okay, I have to end this. At some point.
Yeah, that's a pretty good thing to end it on. Not gonna lie.
Izzy, where can people
I
find you
had
on
so
social
much
media?
You can find me at Delirolin. On Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 11 p.m. We need to sleep.
Anthony,
definitely need to sleep.
Anthony, you're a Guiji right now. What is your Twitter handle?
My Twitter handle is @thepizza-taco.
Mm-hmm.
It's a me, Luigi.
Sam, anything you want to plug, including your Twitter handle? I almost said Twitter like the same way Tom Hardy says.
My Twitter handle is wow, I hate that I did that. I'm sorry. Is just Sam, please.
Mm-hmm.
All one word.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Is it actually please or is it PLS?
No, it's actually please because I'm a professional. And you can also check out metaarcade.com.
Mm-hmm.
That's the company I work for. And there's our games are on there and stuff.
Okay.
But yeah.
Pete, a random stranger who joins this episode, where can people find you on social media?
So I would like to remain anonymous, but if you want some good art, you can find some very good art at Oops All Doodles.
All right.
Underscore between each every word. So,
yeah. No, they just made my spooky Twitter profile picture, which is very good, and I enjoy it.
Chris is now the top post.
Yeah, because I am.
Nice.
Yeah, because I'm very good. Anyway, yeah, I'm at Compendorizer. Oh man, this is gonna be so fun to edit.
Spoopy movie
My
episode.
gosh. Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of like cutting Anthony out of.
Ironically, the only thing you don't have to cut out of this podcast is probably the first 30 minutes. I feel like the first 30 minutes of this recording were really good.
That's perfect symmetry.
Yeah,
cut the rest out. Yeah,
this podcast might actually be a piece of art, whereas like we just came up with a bunch of like we just come up with so much random stuff, and then like someone in the editing room has to make sense of it, and then just puts out a product that.
I'm sorry, but that's someone that I hope
people love.
The room of podcast episodes.
Yes, yeah. Exactly.
I think this is one where you put out like Venom episode and then Venom episode .1, where it's the director's cut. And it's just completely unedited, unfiltered, uncensored nonsense.
I actually like that idea.
Yeah.
Enough people already hate us. I've seen some, like I've seen some good comments about our podcast, and I've seen some really bad ones.
I've seen some really bad ones.
Most annoying podcast hosts ever.
Oh my
god!
Thanks.
A lot of
How
that
would they
directed
listen
at
and
me.
then comment?
I feel like a lot of please review our podcast on wherever your podcasts are found.
Give us your
unless
opinion
you
on
disagree
Anthony.
with us or think we're annoying, then don't.
The
then stay away.
only reviews I saw were on the Infinity War post, the Infinity War podcast post, and it was basically just someone quoting me and being like, "What a weird way to think about things. That doesn't make any sense." And I was like, "You don't understand my art.
You understand my art."
You're welcome for not putting you in an echo chamber. You know.
Yeah.
I'm bringing you perspectives. I'm opening your mind.
Yeah. It's all about perspective.
Eddie Brock and Venom fuck. Congratulations.
Oh my god! Is he still on the call? Come on.
Anywho, thanks.
And with that,
Thanks to Steve Motter for the music.
Also, they don't
Thanks
fuck.
to Steve
It's
Motter
technically
for the
masturbation.
God.
thanks to Charles for the logo.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
Thank you all for listening.
Izzy and Anthony, you guys recorded a thing with Thomas without me. What's coming up next in the next 2 weeks?
There's a 2-parter episode that Thomas wrote, actually. It's very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about
Shared
the
universes.
shared universe model, and we get very existential.
Yeah, we talk about like the end of the MCU and what does that mean?
Oh, jeez. Okay, yeah. Do you talk about Morbius at all? Where's Morbius fit into all this?
I'm just watching.
PhD, MD.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We talk about other cinematic universes as well and stuff and where they fail.
Yeah, the Dark Universe is
Pretty Little Quilt.
Yeah.
So.
All right, if you're still somehow listening all the way to the end of this episode, thank you very much.
We all thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
We'll come back next week
check out
with
our Patreon.
Marvel News S Patreon, and yeah, you know.
Just letting you know, if you guys think that the Patreon gives me money, it doesn't. And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm saying that's perfectly fine.
We are not paying Anthony at all. No.
Good.
We're doing this because it's fun and we're enjoying it, as you can see as the others can see by my face right now.
Yeah, this was really fun to record, and we hope you enjoyed listening. And yeah, it's 11 o'clock, and we need to sleep.
Good
night, guys.
I'll be back for Venom 2.
Yeah, Venom : Carnage.
Venom
which I assume
Carnage.
we're gonna call it. Yeah.
God, if that's the title, I will
Machine Gun Kelly will write the theme song.
Oh,
Carnage!
carnage!
Carnage, Darnage.
Eternity. Holy shit.
Itch.
All right, goodbye.
All right, goodbye.
Oh, wow. Good night, everyone. Yeah. Chris, please tell me you're actually going to edit this.